welcome back to Eat, Sleep, Box and Repeat's YouTube channel. This is the weekly boxing betting tip show. Delighted to be joined as always by Paul Kelly. Paul, we've got the Savannah Marshall and Hermans fight in a couple of days now. I know there's that fight, a couple of fights in the undercard. I know you've got something else to mention as well. We will get right into it. What is your first tip that you've got for us this weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. You mentioned the main event there between Hermans and Marshall. So I'm going to go in straight away with my tip for that fight, and I think we probably agree that this is Marshall's toughest test on paper. Hermans has lost 3 times, but she's never been stopped. I do think Marshall will stop her, but I don't think it'll be as quick as her last few. Her last few have come in 2-3 rounds. I think it could be more like the Hannah Rankin type stoppage, and in the later rounds. So Marshall, just for that fight to go over 4.5 rounds is even money.
Okay.
So that kind of jumped out at me straight away. I do think Marshall will win by stoppage, but I could see it being in the second half of the fight. So over 4.5 rounds, considering it's a 10-round fight at evens, I think is decent money.
Yeah, I think considering obviously women's fights are 2 minutes rather than 3. And we mentioned, I think in our weekly preview, that Marshall might want rounds, so she might purposely hold off for the first 2 or 3 rounds and then possibly search for the stoppage. So she might she might want to go in the second half of the fight on purpose. So yeah, a good bet to get started with. I will go next. Couple of fights on the undercard where I think the bookies have slipped up a little bit, to be honest. First, I've only got 2 this week. First one is Jose Stewart, who is 1-0 heavyweight. He is the biggest heavyweight you will ever see. I think he's 24 stone. He's absolutely massive. I was there for his debut at York Hall. He's fighting again, and he's fighting the same opponent. I don't know why. I want to find out why he's fighting the same guy. But at first, he beat him on points in his debut, and he's fighting him again. I can only really see the same outcome. I'm not saying he kind of can't punch. I just don't think he's going to get this guy out of there, to be honest. This guy's kind of a good old-fashioned journeyman, to be honest. I don't see him. Yeah, don't see him getting stopped. And Jose Stewart is 6-5 to win by decision. It's a 6th round of this time, but I just think that from what I witnessed in the first fight, I'm not convinced Jose Stewart's going to win by stoppage. To be honest, I think it will be by points, but we will see.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, especially if you were there and you saw it ringside. You probably got more of an insight than the rest of us on that fight. So yeah, that's a good bet. I'm gonna go for another one on the Marshall card, on the undercard, and it's the co-main event, I suppose you could call it. Hermans Marku and Chris Jenkins. And having done more research and watching, their last few fights and performances, I've completely changed my mind and what I said in the preview show. So I do think Hermans Marku will win.
Okay.
And I could see him getting a late stoppage as well. Okay. For him to win, I'm going to play it safe. And for him to just get any form of stoppage, KO, TKO, or disqualifications, 5-4. If you were to make me pick what rounds, I would say more later on, maybe around 7, 8, 9. And if you were going to go, if you wanted to go and try and nail it at a really good price, 78, around 78 is 6-1 for Marku.
Okay.
Something like that. So I'll play it safe and say Marku by stoppage at 5-4. But even 5-4, you're still getting quite a good price there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm looking forward to this fight more than the main event. I think it's a very interesting fight. You're going to see where Marku's at in his career, and you're going to see what Jenkins has got left. It's an interesting one with Jenkins because I think he's got some losses on his record, but only one of them is by stoppage. But his last loss was by stoppage, which was to Echo Esserman, and I feel like he was well beaten in that fight, to be honest with you. So yeah, 5-4 for Marku to win the stoppage. Like the sound of that. My second bet is very similar to my first one. I feel like I'm being a bit lazy this week. Matty Harris again, who's want to know heavyweight, who was on the same card as Jose Stewart, so exactly same weight division, exact same record. He's fighting Phil Williams, Phil Williams fights every couple of weeks. He's been in with some big names. If you go on his kind of his box rec record, you'll recognize a lot of the names that Phil Williams has fought. Occasionally gets stopped, but only gets stopped by those who are big kind of British level and beyond prospects. Matty Harris, I thought, looked okay in his debut, was maybe a bit nervous, but again, didn't look like someone who's going to kind of go on like a KO streak, in my opinion. So again, I feel like bookies have slipped up a little bit. 15-8 over 6 rounds for him to go the distance with Phil Williams. So again, I think that's generous, kind of just to confirm. I mean, Phil Williams, he's gone distance with a lot of guys. He's been stopped by Johnny Fisher, who's of course a big puncher. David Adelaide has been stopped by as well. But a lot of other guys, a lot of other decent heavyweights, he's gone the distance with. So yeah, similar sort of bet, two decisions. Tempted to do 2 singles rather than 1 double, to be honest. But that's it. I will give you the result of that now. So it's 15-8 for Matty Harris to win by decision. And bear with me, sorry.
Just while you're doing that, I'll quickly mention another one that I found on the undercard. It's on the Friday night show, the Spanish show. I know I've got one for the Bolotniks fight, but I actually saw one on the undercard, and it's the girl Dave Allen trains, Stevie Levy or whatever you call her, and she's fighting Georgina Guanini, who has a decent enough record. But if Levy's going to be anything, I think she has to win this fight. She's actually the underdog to win this fight. She's 11-10 to win. And I think I'm probably being realistic here, saying that it'll probably be on points if it is a win. And Levy, I'm butchering her name, but you know who I'm talking about. Her to win on points is 7-5 on that undercard on Friday night from Spain.
Interesting. Yeah, I think. I think she's fighting Giuliani, isn't she? Who's kind of has fought in the UK before. So yeah, I think that's an interest. That's one to look out for, to be honest, because I think Stevie Levy, she's not had a lot of fights. I think maybe people know her for being associated with Dave Allen, but a lot of people maybe don't know how good she is. So looking forward to seeing her in action as well, actually. But another interesting bet. I feel like there's a lot, despite there being not a huge amount of boxing this week. I feel like there's a lot of tips to exchange as we are doing so. Cool. I'm just getting used to a new betting app that I've downloaded, hence the delay. But so just to confirm, Matty Harris and Jose Stewart to both win on points. If you put £10 down, you get £63 back. So it's just the double, quite straightforward, 2 kind of 6-rounders. Not a bad little return there if I say so myself. And I'll go to you for your return as well.
Yeah, so before I do a treble or a double, I'll quickly mention that Bolotniks Sepp fight we were mentioning in our preview show, and we thought that it would be even enough in the odds, and Sepp might have been the slight favourite, but Bolotniks is actually the favourite at 4-7, which I still think is a good price because I definitely think he'll win. And we just discussed there off camera that I think it's probably could be, if he is going to win, it's likely to be a knockout. You know, he looked very ferocious and very heavy-handed in those fights before Buatsi, and Bolotniks to win by stoppage is 10-3. So I think that's a really good standalone bet. But yes, if I'll go on to my first treble, and I'll say this is my safe treble. It's just a Bolotniks win at 4-7, a Marku KO at 5-4, and over 4.5 rounds in the Savannah Marshall fight. It's 6.2 to 1. So if you put £10 down, it returns £72.
Lovely.
So I think that's a reasonable treble to get us kicked off.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Sounds fairly safe to me. But we shall see. And personally, I think that Bolotniks stoppage bet, I think that's the best one we've come up with. To be honest, the best one you've come up with. To be fair to you, nothing to do with me. But 10-3 belongs to win by stoppage. Love that bet. To be honest, I think that's the one to watch.
Yeah, I'd say at that price, it's 100%. I'd say it's probably our best selection. And if you want to be, if you want to really go for it and you're feeling bold this weekend, and you fancy a bit of a bigger treble, if you put the Bolotniks knockout over 4.5 rounds in the Marshall fight, and then Levy on points, it's just over 17 to 1. So you'll return nearly £180 off a tenner. So for those that were looking for a bit of a bigger win rather than just 70 points, well, there you go. Well, hopefully we'll win some money for you this weekend. Yeah,
sounds good. There's nothing from the second treble you mentioned that I think's like stupid or kind of like outrageous thing to do, to be honest. So yeah, like the sound of that. Like, as I've said earlier in this video, I do think that the bookies have slipped up a little bit. I could be completely wrong. Maybe Matty Harris and Jose Stewart will win by first round, but both in the first round. But yeah, I think there's money to be made this weekend. I think maybe it's to do with the fact that there were lower key fights happening, and who knows. But no, I think there's a lot going on. All right, Paul, thanks for your time as always. We will return next week for Brian Garcia coming back, Gennady Golovkin coming back. I'm sure there'll be lots to discuss there, whether it's gambling or not gambling. But yeah, thanks very much for your time, mate. Speak to you soon.